I'm now going to put to you that Emmanuel Macron deserves a much, much better hearing than he tends to get from guys and girls of our sort of attitudes. Here's a little bit of a record of Macron. He abolished the French wealth tax in 2018. He's cut income taxes and taxes on corporations by 8% to 25%, cut taxes on individuals. He's made it easier to hire and fire workers, and he's deregulated the SME sector in France. He's given, says an unnamed company boss, a sense of regulatory stability and has simplified the rules. His policy for the current election, it will be a runoff between him and Marine Le Pen, of course, in about 10 days' time, includes increasing the inheritance tax threshold, extending it to more relatives of the deceased, wider tax cuts worth 15 billion euros a year, raising the retirement age from 62 to 65, and further loosening labour market regulations. Tom, this guy would be kicked out of the Tory party for being a fanatical ERGer, wouldn't he?
Do you know what? He wouldn't have been my first choice in the French elections, but compared to Marine Le Pen, Macron every single day of the week. This is someone who said that Britain was lucky to have Margaret Thatcher, and he was absolutely right. He's far more in her mould. And actually, Marine Le Pen is far more in the sort of dirigiste mould, the sort of post-war consensus mould, the autarky mould, the sort of people who don't like enterprise, who don't like trade, who want to have a high-spending, high-welfare society that's closed off from the world. Macron, actually, in many ways, as you rightly point out, in so many of the, is fiscally to the right of where the Tory party is. And that's a remarkable situation to find ourselves within. Really, this is someone who is dragging France, albeit from a ridiculous base. It's easier to cut taxes when you have ridiculous, peculiar taxes brought in by a socialist, François Hollande, in the way that they were, in the way that London became one of the largest French cities on the planet. So many...
A proud tax haven, indeed.
French
a proud tax
people
haven.
fled to the United Kingdom because of that ridiculous government. Well, of course, it's easy to roll back some of the excesses of that system, but I do think that Macron has a genuine reforming zeal when it comes to these situations. And I think your analysis is absolutely right. If you're of a free market bent, there's only one choice in the election in 10 days' time.
Martin, is Emmanuel Macron one of your great libertarian heroes of recent years?
I think choosing to be the most classical liberal French president is like a kind of tallest dwarf in the circus competition. And I think, I mean, you're right, he's sort of doing sort of the right things, but I mean, changing the, trying to challenge French statism is like trying to push a pyramid. You know, it's enormous. I mean, the government spending is around 50%, 70%,
55% of GDP.
57% of GDP. If all his cuts happen and happens and he keeps on his course, by 2026 they're saying it'll be 54%. You know, I mean, you've still got a country that is communist China. 10% of the total workforce work for the government. In France, it's, I think, 27, 28%. I mean, you know, this is an enormous nut to crack. So much as it's great that he's doing so much.
He's sort of chipping away at the nut there, isn't he?
He's sort of chipping. I wish he didn't have that kind of sort of technocratic grandeur kind of thing going on as well, because, you know, what you really need is, you know, a Thatcherite populist. And he seems to be a Thatcherite technocrat, with sort of all the lack of appeal that technocrats have. But it is, as you say, hats off for doing what he's done. But my God, I mean, even in the 1970s, the French economy was 30% public spending to GDP. I mean, you know, it's twice that now as a proportion of GDP. It's the scale of the challenge is.
Yeah, and he's only. What's your take on Macron then, John? Where do you? I mean, he's certainly. Martin and Tom are both right. I mean, from a ludicrous height, but at least you could sort of say the trajectory, even though there are rather shallow trajectories in the right direction there.
Yeah, by French standards, he's done a decent job, but that by French standards caveat is a pretty important one. He's an interesting figure. I mean, he started off as a minister under François Hollande without actually being a member of the Socialist Party. I would describe him more as a Blairite than a Thatcherite, really. He's much more Blairish in his demeanour, in his political outlook. His slogan in 2017 was "en même temps," so at the same time. It was all very, on the one hand we can do this, on the other we can do this. He was a triangulator, so that was his thing. But as Martin says, I mean, my big issue with Macron is not so much his policies, but his hauteur, the way every time he goes on a walkabout in a town, someone kind of confronts him, has a go at him, and he's like, hey, show me some respect.
Okay.
Don't call me Manu.
Yeah, that was very funny.
Yeah.
A teenager was like, hey, Manu. And he was like, I'm Monsieur le Président. And he's got that sort of, he's got that class SWAT vibe about him as well.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Sod the tax cuts, I can't abide pomposity.
Yeah, exactly. And he hates Britain as well, so that's...
Oh, they all do that. They're all French.
But, well, if you enjoyed that conversation, why not watch one of these other videos? And while you're here, remember to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss out on a single IEA broadcast.